In this video, we'll take a look at the T&D PowerSkills Learning Management System. We'll go over its basic functions and features, taking a look at it first from the point of view of an administrator, setting up new students and enrolling them in courses, and then we'll take a look at it from a student's point of view. We'll begin by logging in as an administrator. From this point, the Learning Management System will do a system check to ensure that your browser meets the minimum requirements of the LMS. The LMS is compatible with most W3C standards compliant web browsers, including mobile devices. If your web browser does not meet the minimum system requirements, options will be given to download an updated browser. Once that is complete, you'll come to a screen that gives a bird's eye view of the usage of the LMS. The main menu is on the left side. A list of notices or updates about future changes or maintenance that T&D PowerSkills would like to convey to you is displayed there. And we can also see some basic statistics here. We can see that we have 3 active students, 0 inactive students, and this past month we had 0 course enrollments. We can also take a look at the tests that have been taken. For instance, we can see the number of tests that have been taken in the last 30 days. But we'll go back to the main menu now and take a look at some of the options. First, we'll look at LMS settings, where we'll see that we have one option available to us: Manage User Fields. We try to give you the control to manage your students in a way that best suits your company. If you wanted to add fields to capture additional information from your students beyond the basic username, password, and email address fields, you would set those fields up here. For instance, you may want to capture the date that the student graduated high school or other educational information. You can set that up here and assign it to the company. We'll go back to the main menu and go to Company Management. This screen is where you'll spend most of your time as you configure the LMS to meet your needs. We'll go into Edit Company and take a look at some of the options that are available to you. We have several options to control both the way the LMS behaves and the way the students access the course material. We can turn on or off access to the courses altogether. We can allow the courses to launch after the student passes them or not. If we wanted to encourage a student to continue on to the next course after completing a course, we could simply uncheck that option. We could set a default passing score for all of the courses in the LMS. In this case, a passing score would be a 50%. If we change this, it will apply to all of the courses in the LMS. But we can also change the passing score for individual courses, and we will look at that in just a moment. We can also limit the number of test attempts a student can make. For example, if we wanted to lock a student out of a course after 3 test attempts, we can simply put a 3 here. After unsuccessfully taking a course test for the 3rd time, the student would be locked out of the course and would have to contact his or her supervisor for one-on-one assistance before they could make another test attempt. Record student test responses is an option that would record the individual responses that a student makes on a test. This is useful to go back and review which questions a student got incorrect to address any further training needs they may have. Test notification email is simply a box where you can enter an email address to be notified when a test is completed. We also have several options that we make available to you to control how a student accesses the LMS. For instance, we can change the access time to the LMS to only allow student access between the hours of 8 and 5 on a weekday. There's a similar option for the weekends as well. We also have the option to filter student access to the LMS by IP address. So if you wanted to restrict access to the LMS to your physical location, you could enter its IP address here, and only students at that physical location would be able to access the LMS. Let's go back now and touch on some of the other options. Assign custom user fields is where you activate the custom fields from the previous screen that we talked about and make them active or inactive for the company. In this case, we'll turn on the telephone field by clicking the inactive link. T&D PowerSkills launches the LMS courses organized into our 5 course tracks: Maintenance Basics, Overhead Distribution, Underground Distribution, Substations, and Transmission. But you can easily organize the courses to match your company's particular training program outline. You do this by creating a new course group, And in this screen, simply select the courses you wish to have in that course group and drag them over to the right panel on the screen. You may remove a course by simply clicking on it and then clicking the option to replace it in the left panel. Manage Courses provides options to adjust preferences for individual courses. If we wanted to have a prerequisite course for bucket trucks too, we could select that course here. In this case, a student would have to complete Bucket Trucks 1 before being able to continue on to Bucket Trucks 2. With this in mind, you can see how you can string along a set of prerequisites to tightly control a student's flow through an assigned curriculum. Additionally, you can make this course active or, if the course doesn't apply to your system, inactive. You can set a custom passing score for the course here. If we wanted to require a passing score of 85% to complete the course, we could type it in here. You may elect to grade some courses without practical field knowledge, such as basic electricity, more lightly, while courses that have fundamental skills critical for in-the-field work, such as transformer connections, more stringently. You can also set a password to access the final course test on this screen. Our final option here is Edit Enrollment, which basically allows you to enroll multiple students in the same group of courses at once, so that you don't have to go to each student individually to enroll them. But we'll touch on enrollment more when we get to the student section. We'll now take a look at the users section of the LMS. We'll take a look at how to add a new user and how to administer users. We'll begin here with Manage Students. We have a couple of options for searching for students. We can do a wildcard search by simply pressing the Find Students button, or we can narrow our search by filtering on a student's first name, last name, username, active status, or enrollment date. But what we want to do is add a new user to the system. Let's go through this process now. We'll begin by typing a new username, a password, confirm the password, and add a first name and last name. We'll also add an email address for this user as well. Now, this company has some custom user fields enabled. Your company may have different fields. So what we'll do is just fill in some generic information for that so that these fields are complete. Now, we do have two important additional options at the bottom of the screen: Student Active and Change Password Next Login. Student Active basically turns on or off access to the LMS for the selected student. If you wanted to set up a new student but not allow access to the LMS until a class begins, or if an employee left your organization and you wanted to deny them access to the LMS but retain their training data, you would simply make a student inactive. Change Password Next Login is a useful function for setting up a group of students without having to go through the process of setting a custom password for each. You could set a generic password for all students and provide that to them. With this option selected, when they log on to the LMS with their credentials, they would be prompted to change their password before continuing. Students tend to more actively remember passwords of their own choosing as opposed to passwords that are assigned to them. We'll go ahead and add this student now. We come to this screen, which gives us the option to either return to the previous screen or continue editing the student. Let's go ahead and take a look at the student's profile. We can edit the student's profile as we've just seen, or we can go to the Enroll tab. The Enroll tab allows us to enroll the student into a new curriculum. Once we hit the Add New Enrollment link, we can choose a start date or an end date for the courses. We could, for example, set the courses to become visible to the student next week and run through the end of December. Alternatively, in most cases it's acceptable to allow students to access the courses at any time, so we could choose the No Start Date or End Date option. We see the courses that we set up in the previous screen here. We can choose to enroll the students in all of the courses in a group at once by checking the Groups checkbox, or we can select individual courses inside of a group. We'll go ahead and submit this enrollment. Once we've enrolled the student in these courses, they'll show up on the Students Enrollment tab. We can see that we've enrolled this student in 2 courses and that the student has never accessed them. For the remainder of the student profile, let's go back and take a look at another student that already has some information in the system. We'll go to Users, we'll do a wildcard search, and we'll choose our demo student. Let's take a look at FPRs. FPR stands for Field Performance Requirements. These are basically skills criteria for each T&D PowerSkills course that a student is expected to be able to perform in the field. It's intended to be a living document, so it changes over a student's development through the course. For instance, a skill that may originally be rated as needs improvement might change to acceptable or even very good as a student improves his or her skills in a course. Now, it's very important to us that we have a history of how the FPR has changed over time for accountability purposes. So what we have is a history button here, which will display when something was changed in the FPR and by whom it was changed. Let's take a look at tests now. We can see the student's test results here. In this case, the student has taken the test for Bucket Trucks 2 a number of times, and the results for those attempts are displayed here. If a course has this icon, which looks like a magnifying glass hovering over a piece of paper, it indicates that the student has results stored in the system for that test. We can take a look at this and see exactly which questions the student answered incorrectly. If you would like to edit a test score, for instance, if you feel that a question simply doesn't apply on your system and you'd like to give them credit for it, you can go in and change the test score by clicking this option. In this case, we'll give the student a score of 85. When we submit this, we see that the test result has indeed been changed, and that an orange icon appears next to it to indicate that it was changed by an administrator and is not a native test result submitted by the student. When we hover the mouse over the icon, we see which administrator changed the test score and when it was changed. Now let's take a look at the progress report. The progress report gives some useful information about a student's progress through an assigned curriculum. We can see that the demo student has been enrolled in 10 courses and that the student has passed all 10 courses, completing 100% of the assigned curriculum with an average of 94%. In total, our demo user here has spent 366 hours in the curriculum. The LMS also tracks this information on an individual course basis. We see that the student has gone through the distribution course with a score of 95%, but has only spent less than 1 minute in the course. This can be a cue to an administrator that a student may be unfairly using the system, and that the issue needs to be addressed with the student. Well, that's it for student management. Let's take a look now at managing administrators. You can see that administrator management is very similar. We can edit the administrator's details here. The only notable additional option is that an administrator can be assigned to an admin group. Let's talk about what an admin group is. That's actually our last option on the main menu. Under Manage Groups and Roles, we can see that we have an administrator group that all users are assigned to. Basically, you can create subgroups and assign them limited permissions. For example, if you had a group of foremen that you wanted to allow to administer the LMS, you could create a new group for them, giving them the ability to add new students and manage students, but not delete students. Once the group is created, new administrators can be assigned to it and only have the selected permissions. We'll log in as a student now. When logging in as a student, the system runs through the same browser check to ensure that your browser meets the minimum requirements, and then displays this screen. We have a few options across the top of the screen. We can go home. We can edit our student profile if some information needs to be changed. We can take a look at our progress report. We can view some basic help options, or we can log out of the system. Primarily, though, students will focus on this portion of the screen, which lists the courses that we're enrolled in. We'll take a look at this now. We can see the courses we're enrolled in, as well as the test score if we've completed it. We'll take a look at distribution line repair, gloves. In this course, we can see the number of times we visited the course, how many times we've taken the test, what our most recent test score was, and when it was taken, and what our highest score on the test was. Additionally, we can also see what the passing score is for this course to see how close we're getting to passing. And we can see the amount of time we've spent viewing the course. Looking at our options here from right to left, we can review our FPR to see how our skills are scored in the system. We can print the FPR screen out and take it into the field so that a training supervisor can complete it. We can take a look at additional course materials so that we can get a PDF of the FPR to view. Then we can launch a course. Now, it's important to note here that the 90-day course term that T&D PowerSkills provides to access a course doesn't actually begin until a student clicks the I accept dialog that appears on this screen, which displays the terms of activating the course and the date the course will expire. Basic navigation is on the left and the course information is displayed in the right pane. Every course begins with a descriptive paragraph that describes what will be covered in the course and the training objectives. When we click the Video tab, the video loads into the system. The video is displayed at near HD quality and provides all of the options you expect out of a web video. Users can scrub through the timeline, adjust the volume controls, make the video full screen, or use the chapter navigation to skip to a different segment of the video. When we're finished watching the video, we can go to the final exam of the course. Each final exam consists of 20 multiple choice questions that are randomized each time a student accesses the course. We'll go through and fill in some random answers here. We can submit the test, and it tells us that our score is a paltry 25%. This goes in our student record, and we're redirected back to the course screen. That's basically it from the student's point of view. The LMS is optimized to be easy and efficient for students of varying levels of computer literacy to be able to get in, get their training, and get out. If you have any questions about the T&D PowerSkills learning management system or how our line worker training can benefit your company, please feel free to contact us.